grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
CINN Stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine, point, and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN Stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices. Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescent to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
Well, Muslims are at it again, burning, destroying, and causing mayhem over a cartoon. The elites in Harvard are embroiled in a messy and embarrassing scandal. A leading Muslim scholar calls for United Nations to criminalize free speech. Does George Soros own an overseas company that will be counting American votes this November? Muslims around the world are being urged to start killing infidels. That, by the way, is you and me. A class action suit has been filed against Jimmy Carter, and how QE3 will make the wealthier even wealthier while causing living standards to fall for the rest of us. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Real Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com and on Facebook and on YouTube and in the book Real Truth, Stay Angry. And, of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM, The Lion. Our call-in number, 877-254-7524. My friends, welcome back. It's the day after Rosh Hashanah. I wish you all a happy and a healthy new year. Let's hit it. Item from the New York Times, Dateline, Paris. A French satirical magazine on Wednesday published a series of cartoons mocking the Prophet Muhammad, setting off a new wave of outrage among Muslims and condemnation from French leaders amid widening unrest over an amateur video that has provoked violence throughout the Islamic world. The illustrations, some of which depict Muhammad naked, hit newsstands across the country on Wednesday and were met with a swift rebuke from the government of Francois Hollande, which had earlier urged the magazine Charlie Hebdo not to publish the cartoons, particularly in the current tense environment. In France, there's a principle of freedom of expression which should not be undermined, said Laurent Fabius, the foreign minister, in a French radio interview. In the present context, given this absurd video that's been aired, strong emotions have been awakened in many Muslim countries. Is it really sensible or intelligent to pour oil on the fire? Stop. Yes! It is, for two very important reasons. Number one, maybe the Muslims can learn how ridiculous they've been. Maybe if it happens often enough, they can say to themselves, what are we doing, causing all this sturm and drang over a mere cartoon? Just between you and me, I don't think that's going to happen. Second reason, let's let the world see Muslims as they are, outraged, angry, destructive, barbaric. Then maybe, the world will wake up to the threat that faces each of us. Let's continue. In the interview on France Info Radio, Mr. Fabius announced that, as a precaution, France planned to close its embassies in 20 countries on Friday, the Muslim Day of Prayer, which has become an occasion for many to express their anger, although, quote, no threats have been made against any institutions. Stop! My friends, this is an instance of punishing the victim. Muslims in 20 countries are probably going to get all whooped up and all excited and violent and barbaric and destructive. And so the thing to do is punish them for it. If they want to destroy your property, you make them pay for it. I don't mean in dollars. I mean in blood. You've got guards in these embassies. Post them. Make sure they're at work on Friday. If anybody starts attacking the embassy, you defend the embassy. If they get violent, you get violent. I mean, my friends, at a certain point, common sense has got to kick in, right? Interest in the cartoons was so intense that Charlie Hebdo website became overloaded with a number of people trying to seek access. A Pakistani technology news outlet, Pro-Pakistani, said a Pakistani hacker group had also said it blocked the site because of its, quote, blasphemous contents about Muhammad, unquote. No need to belabor the point, my friends. If the wind blows, there will be violence in the Muslim world. Related item from France24.com. France announced it will close 20 embassies. Cartoons naked, a growing block. Item from related news, ABC News. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Susan Rice said the attack on the American consulate in Benghazi was not premeditated, directly contradicting top Libyan officials who say the attack was planned in advance. Rice's account directly contradicts that of Libyan President Mohammed Yusuf al-Magharif, who said this week he had, quote, no doubt the attack was pre-planned by individuals from outside Libya, unquote. My friends, you remember reading over the past many years, whenever something in our nation blows up, before the fire is out, there's some government shill in front of a radio or a television camera saying, wait, no, it's not terrorism. Explain to me, you have not yet conducted your investigation, but you somehow know it's not terrorism. Well, in that same vein, U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice says the attack on the American consulate was not premeditated, even though the Libyans, who were closer to it than she is, say it was. The government lies to us. The government is cowardly. The government is on its knees before the Muslim world, which is insanity because the Muslim world could be brushed off like dandruff if only we decided to. Related item, a discovery by a Harvard researcher may shed light on a controversial aspect of the life of Jesus Christ. Harvard Divinity School professor Karen King says she's found an ancient papyrus fragment from the 4th century that, when translated, appears to indicate that Jesus was married, unquote. So, my friends, if you are out there in my audience and you're Christian and you've just had your religion besmirched, I'm guessing and I'm assuming that you are now on your way out of the house to go burn and destroy and kill, right? What do you mean you're not? It's your duty to go out and burn and destroy things, A, because your religion has been insulted, B, because Muslims are out there destroying when their religion is insulted. You don't mean to imply that your religion is better than Islam, do you? You don't mean to imply that you're more civilized than the Muslims, do you? Oh, my friends, that's hardly politically correct. Real truth is nothing if not a bastion of political correctness. I insist that Christians take to the streets and destroy anything they can get their hands on because their religion has been besmirched. And if you're not going to, then take a lesson. Look at people who cannot wait to run out into the street and cause mayhem, destruction, and horror. You really think you're going to have peace with those people, my friends? Really? Really? This is Real Truth. It's Wednesday. We'll be back.
And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. This is Pastor Michael Golden. My wife Danny and I would like to invite you to join us at the Voice of Many Waters congregation for a Mikra HaKodesh, a holy convocation, every Saturday, Shabbat, at 1 p.m. at 3J's Christian Coffee House, 21 North Parish Avenue in Johnstown. We'll be having praise and worship, fellowship, midrash teaching and study time, followed by an oneg. Check out our website at www.voiceofmanywaters.org. That's voiceofmanywaters.org. Or call us at 1-303-522-3562. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful.
Just a good old boy.
Hi, I'm Eric Cedarstrup. For over a decade, I've been the CEO, shipping clerk, and janitor of the Patriot Trading Group. And in that time, I've made friends with tens of thousands of like-minded individuals all over this country, most like me, trying to raise a family, run a business, and make sense out of a world gone mad. I'm proud of the fact that through stock bubbles, housing bubbles, and financial chaos, our customers are prospering and doing very well. By keeping our prices fair and our service fast, we find that 80% of our customers not only reorder, but they tell their friends. Don't be fooled by hype and high pressure. Do business with a company you can trust. Call the Patriot Trading Group at 1-800-951-0592 or check out our website at allamericangold.com. You'll be treated with honesty and respect. You have my word on it. I'm Eric Cedarstrom, CEO, shipping clerk, and janitor.
Making their way the only way they know how.
My friends, we are back. Now, you and I have been assured by not one, but two different presidents that Islam is the religion of peace. Certainly, if we ask a Muslim imam, he'll tell us the same thing, right? Wrong. One of the leading Muslim radicals is a guy named Anjem Choudhury, who makes no bones about the fact that Islam is most definitely not the religion of peace. You don't believe me? Well, first of all, I'm a little insulted. Second of all, believe this imam. Listen.
Both George W. Bush and Barack Obama have declared that Islam is a religion of peace. Anjem Choudhury begs to differ.
You can't say that Islam is a religion of peace, because Islam, it does not mean peace. Islam means Islam's submission. So the Muslim is the one who submits. You know, there's a place for violence in Islam. There's a place for jihad in Islam.
Choudhury is the leader of Islam for UK, a group recently banned in Britain under the country's counter-terrorism laws. He wants Islamic Sharia law to rule the United Kingdom and is working to make that dream a reality. He's seen here converting a 10-year-old British boy to Islam. Islamic radicals in the United States are usually pretty savvy. They wear suits and ties. They speak, at least publicly, in moderate tones. But here in London, it's often a different story. Anjem Choudhury has praised the 9/11 hijackers and called for the execution of Pope Benedict. Choudhury told CBN News his group is a nonviolent political and ideological movement that resides in the UK under a covenant of security. Yet he openly praises violent jihad.
The Quran is full of, jihad is the most talked about duty in the Quran after Tawheed, belief. Nothing else is mentioned more than the topic of fighting.
Several former members of Choudhury's group have been arrested on terrorism charges.
A very significant number of former Al-Muhajirun people were involved in terrorist plots against this country. A number of people have actually gone to Afghanistan, joined the Taliban, and died fighting for the Taliban.
Choudhury refuses to condemn acts of terror, including 9/11 and the July 7, 2005 London bombings, which killed 52 people.
What were your thoughts on the 7/7 bombings? Did you condemn them? Did you support them?
For the people who carried it out, it was legitimate. If you look at the will of Muhammad Siddiq Khan and Shirat and Riell, they will justify it, and they will bring many verses from the Quran and many statements to say that that's the Islamic argument. And it's a difficult Islamic argument to refute, and there are many scholars who support that argument as well.
Choudhury says his group is merely following core Islamic teachings. He says Islam is much more than a religion.
This particular belief is more than just a religion. It's not just a spiritual belief. It is, in fact, an ideology, which you believe in and you struggle for, and you're willing even to die for, because you believe in that. That is your whole life.
He seems to relish being called Great Britain's most hated man, pledging to continue his rallies, calling for the overthrow of the British system. Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News, London.
Eric is with us now. And Eric, how does Chowdhury's opinions, or how do his opinions differ from what would be considered the more moderate Muslim?
Well, Pat, one word: honesty. Anjem Chowdhury tells you exactly what he thinks, exactly what he feels. He wants Islamic Sharia law. He supports jihad, and he doesn't like Christians and Jews. And he'll tell you that to your face, Pat. It's a lot different than here in the U.S. You know, I've interviewed so many Muslim leaders, supposedly moderate Muslim leaders here in the U.S., who tell me one thing on camera, but behind the scenes, when they're talking to fellow Muslims, they say quite another thing. It's the old Yasser Arafat rule, Pat. Say one thing to a Western audience, another thing to a Muslim audience. I think our viewers should consider this interview with Anjem Chowdhury an education. He is telling you exactly what they really believe, and we need to prepare for it.
How do you think George Bush and our current president got so snookered? Maybe our president isn't snookered. Maybe he's a crypto-Muslim. I don't know. What do you think?
You know, Pat, it's tough to say. I think honestly, there's just an ignorance about Islam. If you look back to the Cold War, you look back to the 1980s, Ronald Reagan was a guy who devoured everything he could get his hands on about communism, Marxism, Stalinism, the Soviet Union. He knew the enemy. I think our political leaders today, Pat, on both sides of the aisle are completely ignorant about Islam. We had a Democratic leader just 3 years ago who didn't know the difference between Shia and Sunni. And this was a guy sitting on an Intel committee, Pat. So there's ignorance across the board. And the reality here, Pat, let's face it, it's difficult to accept. It's not a pleasant reality that Islam has a violent streak. It's much easier to sugarcoat it and say, hey, Islam is a religion of peace. We can reason with these people. No. I sat down with Anjem Chowdhury for over an hour there in London, Pat, and I'll tell you, you can't reason with him. He's not going to budge from this belief, and that belief is jihad.
What do you think about political correctness? Have the American people been so seduced by political correctness that they refuse it? We won't even mention Islam now in official proclamations.
Political correctness, Pat, could end up being the death of us. I think political correctness right now is killing Europe. The reluctance, once again, to identify not only the enemy, but what the enemy believes. This is what they believe. And, Pat, as Chowdhury said, they're getting this from the Quran. They're getting it from the Hadith. I wish it wasn't so, but it is. And it's been in there for 1,500 years, and to them, this is unchanging. It can't be changed. What we need is some Muslims. We can't do it. Some Muslims have to step up, look at the Quran, and say, hey, we have to bring this up to date to the 21st century. It's not the 7th century anymore. We need to bring it into the modern day. We need to strike these verses about jihad and try to translate in a way that it doesn't apply to the present day. That's a very, very tall order, Pat. As you know, that's what we need. I don't know that we'll get it.
No, we're not going to get it. By the way, this is Eric Stakelbeck and Pat Robertson on CBN News. You can find it linked on my Facebook page. You'll find it on YouTube. The headline, Muslim leader admits Islam is not a religion of peace. And I have to tell you, that little breeze of honesty is refreshing. Be honest. If only our politicians were as honest as this imam. Item from the New York Times. Dateline, Cambridge, Massachusetts. 6 months ago, the Harvard men's basketball team was a source of uncommon athletic pride on campus. The team was ranked among the nation's top 25 for the first time, and when it earned the program's first berth to the NCAA tournament in 66 years, students and players spilled into Harvard Square chanting and celebrating. The next day, Harvard's staid campus of red brick buildings was hardly one big pep rally, but from the Harvard bookstore, which printed commemorative basketball T-shirts, to the college's presidents who called the team a real community building force, the university seemed to bask in an atypical glow of sporting achievement. But last week, days after published reports implicated the co-captains of the basketball team in a widespread academic cheating scandal that may involve dozens of varsity athletes, the mood at Harvard has shifted. Stop. Our friends at Harvard need to wrench their brains around a little bit. They've undoubtedly been raised and educated to think they're better than the common man. Well, welcome to the mosh pit, guys. You are no better. More money? Yes. Money doesn't mean better. On top of which, let's wring a second lesson out of this. Forget Harvard for a second. Look at the way sports is treated on universities across the country. Look at the way athletes and coaches are treated, like rock stars, like celebrities. That's a little stupid, isn't it? How about the geniuses on campus? How about the academic leaders? How about the technological leaders? Why don't we make them the rock stars and relegate big young men who just want to spend their time playing games, relegate them to the playground where they belong? Item from Infowars.com. Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayan, an influential Muslim scholar and a professor at King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia, has called for the United Nations to end free speech. The UN Human Rights Committee has declared the right to free speech and expression may be subjected to restrictions that are, quote, strictly necessary and proportionate, unquote. In December, according to Forbes, the United States voiced its support for UN Resolution 16/18, an initiative of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation that seeks to limit speech that's viewed as, quote, discriminatory or which involves, quote, defamation of religion. We ask everyone to ponder the ramifications of provoking the feelings of over 1 billion people by a small party of people who desires not to seek peace nor fraternity between members of humanity, said bin Bayah in a declaration in response to the anti-Islamic video that has provoked massive demonstrations and several deaths across the Muslim world. Quote, this poses a threat to world peace with no tangible benefit realized. Stop! Mr. bin Bayah, you're an idiot. From a culture of idiots. A culture that doesn't know of free speech. Doesn't know of truth. Poses a threat to world peace with no tangible benefit realized? Wrong. Truth is always in and of itself a tangible benefit. A world without truth is not worth living in. Curtail my free speech so I can't call a spade and say an Islamic terrorist is an Islamic terrorist? I'm not thinking that's going to fly, Mr. bin Bayah. My friends, what do we hear about Christians and Jews coming from Muslim countries? You know what you hear. Muzzle the Muslims first. Then, once the pejorative religious statements are no longer coming out of the Arab world, then maybe we'll talk about being more judicious in our free speech. In the meantime, the UN once again, for the umpteenth time, proves to be, at the very best, worthless and useless, and at worst, insidious, and the tool of petty dictators and terrorists. I say push the damn building into the East River and be done with it. Item from The Blaze. Does a major Obama donor own an overseas company that will control the U.S.'s entire vote counting system? The simple answer, no, but let's expand on this, because obviously it would be highly disturbing, to say the least, if it were true. The claim goes something like this, as noted by Snopes. The Obama administration has sold the processing rights of our votes in the general election to a company from Spain. It will no longer be possible to track and verify our votes. The CEO of the company donated the maximum amount to Obama's 2008 campaign. And according to similar emails, the company, SCYTL, Seidel, has strong ties to billionaire currency speculator, liberal activist, and Democrat donor George Soros. Unquote. My friends, forgive me for a stupid question. You know, I'm very good at asking them. Why do we have to get a company from Spain to count American votes? No answer? If we say that we must have an independent country verifying our votes, I'm not certain, but I think there are two countries closer than Spain. I think they have names like Canada and Mexico. All the way to Spain, all the way to Europe to count our votes? Huh? 230 some odd years into this game, we still can't count votes? Item from USA Stands with Israel. Muslims were caught last week destroying Jewish holy books on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. 3 Muslim youths were arrested Saturday night for desecrating Jewish holy books in a Jewish cemetery in Jerusalem. The vandals were in the process of trying to burn several books of Psalms, which were written by the biblical King David of Israel in the ancient Mount of Olives cemetery. The 3 suspects are all around 16 years old and are residents of a Muslim neighborhood next to the cemetery. 2 of the 3 suspects confessed to the crime, and the third was also found to have participated, although he continued to deny it. When a controversial Florida-based Christian cleric burned Islam's holy book, the Quran, in 2010, the incident sparked worldwide anger and violent riots by Muslims worldwide. A week ago, an amateur video produced by an individual in the U.S. mocking the life of the Prophet Muhammad, founder of Islam, caused enormous violent attacks against U.S. and other Western diplomatic missions around the world. A U.S. ambassador, 3 U.S. diplomats, and 2 U.S. Marines were killed. Folks, why don't we go to Muslim countries and act badly, start destroying things? Well, you know the answer. Who the hell wants to go to a Muslim country? We'll be back.
Ladies, this is Danny Golden informing you that heart attacks in women can be different than heart attacks in men. Women having heart attacks will experience nausea, vomiting, indigestion, shortness of breath, or simply sudden and extreme fatigue, but no chest pain. Get emergency medical help and call 911 immediately if you are experiencing any of these symptoms. Pain, pressure, burning or squeezing in the chest, jaw, shoulders, back, or arms that last more than 5 to 10 minutes. Unexplained shortness of breath lasting more than 5 to 10 minutes. Sudden severe nausea, vomiting, or indigestion. Sudden sweating for no reason. Sudden unexplained extreme fatigue. Loss of consciousness or fainting. Or sudden unexplained panicky feeling of doom. The key, ladies, is to listen to your body. Follow your instincts, and if you experience symptoms that are disturbing to you in any way, or even remotely related to your heart, get yourself checked out right away. If your doctor brushes you off, that's a sign you need a new doctor, one who will actually do what is necessary to get to the bottom of your symptoms.
When you focus on doing one thing right, odds are you end up with something really right. At Ram, we only build trucks with legendary engines like the Hemi V8 and Cummins diesel. And a 5-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty that beats the Ford F-150 by 40,000 miles. We may never be called a jack of all trades, but that's okay, because we're the masters of one. See for yourself at Ram Power Days. See your local Ram dealer today and get $7,700 in total values on the 2012 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab during Ram Power Days. See dealer for details and a copy of limited warranty. Values include $3,200 Bighorn package discount and $4,500 cash allowance. Package values based on combined value of individual package items. Residency restrictions apply. Offer ends 10/1. Cummins is a registered trademark of Cummins, Inc. Ram and Hemi are registered trademarks of Chrysler Group, LLC.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, The feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1 through 3. Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Welcome back to Real Truth. Stuart Varney, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Barack Obama talking about redistribution of wealth. That means taking our money and giving it to other people. This is all on the Fox Business Network. Listen.
President Obama back in 1998 talking about wealth redistribution. Please listen.
I think the trick is figuring out how do we structure government systems that pool resources and hence facilitate some redistribution, because I actually believe in redistribution.
Okay, that was 14 years ago. I actually believe in redistribution. All rise. I'm sure the judge has something to say about that. His name is Andrew Napolitano, and he is here. Okay, the president, then State Senator Barack Obama, said it 14 years ago. In my opinion, he implemented it 4 years ago. And in my opinion, he has indeed transformed Americans' financial culture. You agree, or am I just not being strong enough?
No, I don't think anybody can disagree with you. I don't think anybody should be surprised that the president said it. He's probably not happy today that he said it then, and he's probably not thrilled that the tape surfaced, because it will divert attention from Mitt Romney's comments a few months ago, about which we could speak later. But it should be no surprise that the president believes this. In a certain extent, redistribution is the public policy of the federal government of the United States, and has been from the progressive era into the FDR years, into the LBJ years, and we just accept those laws now as part of redistribution.
Judge, I've got to jump in, because I would go further. I would maintain that to some degree, redistribution, neo-socialism, is popular.
It is popular. It's certainly popular with the 47% of whom Mitt Romney spoke, some of whom received back money that they contributed in the form of payroll deductions for Social Security and Medicare, most of whom are just being paid, are just receiving benefits from the federal government.
Whether it's payroll taxes on that money.
Correct. So, look, this is a scam. Here's the scam. When FDR sold the country on Social Security, he said, we will, quote, hold your money for you, his word. We will hold it for you, and when you retire, we will give you back your nest egg. He was lying. We know he was lying because at the same time he said, we will hold your money for you, he dispatched Justice Department lawyers to the Supreme Court to argue against challenges on the constitutionality of Social Security. And in those arguments, the lawyers said, it's not the money of the taxpayer. It's the federal government's money. And the federal government is free to spend it however they want. And the Supreme Court ruled.
But I can't go all the way back to the 1930s and re-argue the constitutionality.
I'm not asking you to. I'm suggesting to you that it has been the public policy of the federal government of the United States to engage in deception in order to create dependency on certain on the Democratic Party so that they can win votes.
Regardless of that, it is popular.
Yes, it's popular.
Because we've passed the tipping point of who pays tax and who doesn't, and who gets what from who, it is a popular mechanism.
Gentlemen, social insurance is right, reasonable, important, necessary, and judge constitutional.
Yes, but Hamilton and Jefferson rarely agreed on anything, but they did agree on this. When the public treasury becomes a public trough, then people will only send to Washington those whom they think will bring back the bigger piece of the pie.
It's gone way beyond that. We are borrowing $1 trillion a year. We've gone way beyond just feeding at the public trough. We're feeding at a massive trough, which we're inventing by borrowing.
President Obama get together and agree on bold symbols. It's something you and I mostly agree on.
President Obama is reelected,
unpopular.
It would be right.
If President Obama is reelected and he adds another $4 trillion in debt, and 4 years from now we have $20 trillion in debt, that's $1 trillion in interest payments. Add to that the $2 trillion in entitlement payments, that's $3 trillion. The government only collects $2.5 trillion in taxes, so before it even funds the government, it will run out of money.
But don't forget, President Obama told Letterman last night that the debt is... We don't have to worry about it in the short term.
We have to worry about it today.
Thank you, Judge.
So you'll find spending cuts and revenue increases to try to deal with it?
I'm not in favor of revenue increases. I'm in favor of shrinking the government down to the Constitution. It's not going to happen overnight.
Stuart and Judge, we're not going to have a government that meets our needs.
I think we have a standoff here, and we're out of time. But look at that.
So Obama was on Letterman last night. Saying that the debt is not a problem in the short term. And the humanoids who were watching Letterman thought, oh, that's good. Anybody there watching Letterman last night, watching Obama? I watched this for a second. I flipped through. I saw he was on. Anyone say to themselves, this guy's either an idiot or he's lying? Well, the good news is you were right on both counts. Item from Reuters, Dateline, Dubai. The Yemen-based branch of al-Qaeda urged Muslims to step up protests and kill more U.S. diplomats in Muslim countries after a U.S.-made film mocking the Prophet Muhammad, which said was another chapter in the Crusader Wars against Islam. Whoever comes across America's ambassadors or emissaries should follow the example of Omar al-Mukhtar's descendants, Libyans, who killed the American ambassador, the group said, referring to Tuesday's attack on the U.S. consulate in the Libyan city of Benghazi. Let the step of kicking out the embassies be a step toward liberating Muslim countries from their American hegemony, a statement posted on the al-Qaeda website in the Arabian Peninsula said on Saturday, unquote. Well, there you are, guys. Open season on us. Item from the Washington Free Beacon. U.S. Marines defending the American embassy in Egypt were not permitted by the State Department to carry live ammunition, limiting their ability to respond to attacks like those this week on the U.S. consulate in Cairo. My friends, I don't blame you. You want me to repeat that sentence. I'll repeat part of it. U.S. Marines defending the American embassy in Egypt were not permitted by the State Department to carry live ammunition. Not permitted to carry live ammunition. And so these Marines were, by definition, not defending the American embassy in Egypt. What were they going to use against any attackers? Harsh language? How do you have soldiers holding guns with no bullets? Only the State Department, in its infinite insanity, and only under this president, could they come up with something like that. By all means, the one thing this nation needs more than anything else is for our military to be disarmed. Item from Aaron Klein, Dateline, New York. The Coptic Christian community in Egypt is now under threat of mass slaughter from Islamists under the pretense of revenge for a movie that depicts the Quranic figure Muhammad in a negative light, a senior Egyptian military official told Klein online. The producers of The Innocence of Muslims movie are reportedly tied to the Coptic religion. Reports are claiming the movie sparked anti-U.S. attacks in Egypt and Libya, including the killing this week of the U.S. ambassador. However, some security officials believe the violence to be premeditated. The Egyptian military official said today that Islamic groups are threatening to, quote, slaughter the whole Christian Coptic community, unquote, in the city of Naja Hamadi, located about 60 miles from Cairo. Naja Hamadi contains a large Coptic community, unquote. So, my friends, if you are Christian, the Muslims are going to see to it that you pay for your sins. Item from PixIQ.com. Police in Texas shot an unarmed man 41 times, then turned around and confiscated another man's camera after he started taking photos and shooting video of the bloody aftermath. We'll be back.
And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. This is Pastor Michael Golden. My wife Danny and I would like to invite you to join us at the Voice of Many Waters congregation for a Mikra HaKodesh, a holy convocation, every Saturday, Shabbat, at 1 p.m. at 3J's Christian Coffee House, 21 North Parish Avenue in Johnstown. We'll be having praise and worship, fellowship, midrash teaching and study time, followed by an oneg. Check out our website at www.voiceofmanywaters.org. That's voiceofmanywaters.org. Or call us at 1-303-522-3562. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful.
11 years ago, when my uncle started the Patriot Trading Group, gas was 75 cents a gallon. We were running an alleged budget surplus, and the total national debt was $5 trillion, and the government was forecasting the debt would be eliminated by 2010. And I thought my uncle was a wacko with tinfoil on his head. Well, I owned tech stock, certain to become a millionaire before the millennium rolled over. Since then, the debt has doubled, jobs are heading overseas, and 100,000 people have joined Eric with tinfoil on their heads. I'm Joe Jaquin, vice president for the Patriot Trading Group. And as gold and silver have doubled and even tripled during the first 11 years, the issues facing this country over the next 11 years look far worse. Call the Patriot Trading Group at 800-951-0592. We offer all forms of gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, shipped and delivered at the most competitive prices in the country. Call us, 800-951-0592, or check out our website at allamericangold.com. And remember, you don't need to have tinfoil to own gold and silver.
My friends, who knows more about Islam than Muslims? Well, here's a guy named Mossab Youssef, who was born and raised and lived as a Muslim. He's no longer a Muslim, but he's come to tell us some truth about Islam. Let's listen.
How dangerous is the world of radical Islam, and how dangerous is Hamas in your mind to the region?
On the short term, Hamas is not a danger to the West. Hamas is not interested in carrying an attack outside of Palestine. Their priority number one, to destroy Israel, not to destroy America. But one day, if Hamas is in charge and they take control of nuclear weapons, I tell America to be, and the West in general, to be concerned about something like this. But I'm telling you, the problem is much bigger than Hamas. The problem is in the God of Islam. This is shocking, and unfortunately, this is a reality about this God. He is a God of torture. He is a God, the deceit God. This is what he talks about himself. Islam as a religion in general is a lie wrapped with some facts and truths, and I'm talking this with the authority of somebody who understands exactly what Islam is all about. And it's the biggest lie in history, in my opinion. And this is the biggest danger, that a quarter of population of Earth believe that this is a religion from God. They are wonderful people.
I have to just interrupt you because I know your experience, but those are highly charged words. 99 point, I don't know the figure, but the vast majority of Muslims are peace-loving. Here in Canada, our Muslims...
Stop! How do you know that? How do you know that? I don't know for any certainty that that's true. I'll tell you a statement that's probably closer to the truth. The vast majority of Muslims are Islam-loving. The vast majority of Muslims are Quran-loving. The vast majority of Muslims are Allah-loving. Those are things I can say with a degree of certainty. The fact that they identify themselves and live as Muslims mean that they love Islam, they love the Quran, and they love Allah. Now explain to me, please, how you can be so certain that a vast majority love peace. Maybe they love the Quran, which says jihad. Let's not be stupid. A vast majority of Muslims are not detonating themselves with shrapnel vests. Doesn't mean they don't admire and respect those who do. Doesn't mean they wouldn't provide material support for those who do. Doesn't mean they wouldn't gladly reap the benefits of those who do. We talk a lot about political correctness. Well, that's what this guy on television is being. Don't tell me a vast majority of Muslims are peace-loving, because you don't know that. Ted Bundy was peace-loving right up until he started killing. Then he was no longer peace-loving. Let's continue.
Muslim is the same as any other religion. So, those are very inflammatory words about... I know you've converted to Christianity, but that's pretty inflammatory.
Yes. This is a good point, and what I'm trying to tell you here, that your problem, my problem, the world's problem is not with Muslims. And Muslims, the majority of Muslims are great and wonderful people. They are my people. I know their pain, I know their sufferings, and I know their hearts. When you go to the Middle East, when you go to any Muslim community, you see their
passion, you see their hospitality, and you get confused, even more confused. You say sometimes those Muslims are better than many Christians, and we are not in a position to compare people. We are comparing ideologies. And I'm telling you that the minimum Muslim, the most criminal Muslim or terrorist has a minimum of morality, responsibility, logics more than his God. If you read the Quran, if you allow yourself to understand what the Quran is all about, you're going to figure this out yourself. Go to the Quran, Surah 9, verse 5, and you will find what the God of Quran is asking Muslims to do against everybody. Now, it's not Muslims' fault that they were born in that culture. It's not their fault that they were born as Muslims. But what we're telling them, understand your religion before you are offended. Those are realities about their religion, and they need to recognize that.
Mossad Hassan Youssef, it is a fascinating account of a life. We've rarely seen something like this before. I appreciate you coming on today and telling your story with us. Thanks so much.
Here's the thing, my friend. Here's the rub, as Shakespeare said. I will agree a vast majority of Muslims are not going to blow anything up or shoot anybody or poison the local water supply. Probably a small minority would do something like that. Now please point out the small minority. Which ones are they? You can't, can you? Because you can't read minds, can you? All you know is that small minority, just like the large majority, all read the same Quran. If you're a religious person, you know that some days you'll wake up and you may feel more religious than you did yesterday. You may feel especially inspired. And so if you're a Christian or a Jew, you may go out and help a little old lady across the street. You may give some money to charity. Because that's what our Bibles tell us to do. If you're a Muslim and you wake up today and you're feeling a little bit more religious than you did yesterday, you may explode yourself on a bus. You may open fire in a crowd of people. You may go find your friend who's got some kind of disgusting substances and vials and throw them into your local reservoir because you happen to be especially inspired today to do what your Bible says, which is to wage jihad any and every way possible. And so you cannot pick out that Muslim is dangerous, that one is not, this one's a killer, this one wouldn't harm a fly, because you don't know. And that's why we've got to be protected from all of them. Because any of them, anyone who lives according to the Quran, could wake up this morning and decide it's his duty to Allah to start killing infidels. That's the rub, my friend. And that's what just might sink all of us. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Phillips, founder of the Green Herb.
The people who are controlling the government of America are the same people who are trying to control your family's health care. You can sit quietly by and accept their plan, or you can take responsibility for your health. What would happen if you could no longer obtain the medications you're now taking? Would you be forced to join the ranks of corrupt agents just to purchase the medicine? If you're one of the thousands of concerned citizens who would like to know more about a natural way, God's way to help, drop by the Green Herb for a natural solution and all the information you need to make an intelligent decision. Or go to our website, www.thegreenherb.com. Come by the Green Herb, located in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, on the I-70 Frontage Road North, 1 mile west of Kipling, or call 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And be sure to listen to the Green Herb Show with Linda and Dr. Cass every Tuesday at 1 o'clock on KHNC.
And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of Him and cried out, saying, This was He of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for He was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Back. Real Truth, 4 minutes to go. Let's hit it. Item from USA stands with Israel. Perhaps no individual more than former American President Jimmy Carter has sought every possible opportunity to defame the Jewish state and endeavor to challenge its right to exist. Accordingly, an historic class action suit has been filed against the former president and the Simon & Schuster Publishing Company, alleging that Carter's book, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid, contain numerous false and knowingly misleading statements intended to promote the author's agenda of anti-Israel propaganda and to deceive the reading public instead of presenting accurate information as advertised. The plaintiffs, who hope to have the case certified as a class action, are members of the reading public who purchased Carter's book expecting that they were buying an accurate and factual record of historic events concerning Israel and the Palestinian Arabs. The lawsuit contends that Carter, who holds himself out as a Middle East expert, and his publisher intentionally presented untrue and inaccurate information and sought to capitalize on the author's status as a former president to mislead unsuspecting members of the public. The suit is the first time a former president and publishing house have been sued for violating consumer protection laws by knowingly publishing inaccurate information while promoting a book as factual, unquote. Jimmy Carter is an idiot, my friends. He's an anti-Semite, and if he wants to come on this show and debate me, he has an open invitation. Item from PixIQ.com. Despite wearing a camera on his uniform and having one on the dashboard of his patrol car, a Texas police officer was not deterred in dragging an elderly woman out of her car when she didn't immediately produce a driver's license during a traffic stop. It took less than a minute for Keene Police Sergeant Jean Geheb to drag 77-year-old Lynn Bedford out of her car, even though she said she would give him her license. She just didn't do it fast enough. Geheb had pulled her over last month after clocking her driving 66 miles an hour in a 50-mile-per-hour zone. Bedford, who was driving home after playing piano at church, explained that she was in a hurry because she has a bladder infection and needed to use the bathroom. But Geheb had no sympathy, and neither did his boss, who approved of his behavior, unquote. Idiots. We've got idiots with guns roaming the countryside. Item from the Rutherford Institute, Dateline, Charlottesville, Virginia. John Whitehead, president of the Institute, is calling on the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee to protect the privacy and civil liberties of American citizens from police use of unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones. In the wake of the passage of the FAA Reauthorization Act, it's expected that at least 30,000 drones will occupy U.S. airspace by 2020. In alerting the committee to the dangers posed by the drones to citizens' privacy and civil liberties, the Rutherford Institute has made a model legislation available entitled the Freedom from Drone Surveillance Act, unquote. My friends, I was under the belief that there already was a Freedom from Drone Surveillance Act. It's called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's called a right of privacy. It's called protection against illegal search and seizure. These are rights that are already in place. I doff my cap to John Whitehead and the Rutherford Institute for doing this, but what makes them think that if the authorities won't show any respect to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, that it will show any respect to the Freedom from Drone Surveillance Act? In fact, what makes anyone think that our government will show the American people any respect? It's been doing a great job of wiping its feet on us for decades. We'll be back tomorrow in this truncated week, and we'll finish up for the week. More Real Truth ahead. My friends, stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay angry. I'll see you tomorrow.